Hi, everyone. We are back with another exam. We'll do orientation for Bihar PSC teacher recruitment exam. Ankita, do you know 10,000s of people are writing this exam?
Yes, right.
Teacher recruitment exam English to teach in schools. You have both posts for TGT and PGT. TGT, PGT both have. And in TGT and PGT, there is a little bit of grammar and usage. In PGT, there is reading comprehension and literature. You have to study some authors. Shakespeare, Romantic period, Indian English writing. These are the most important areas. So I have the syllabus with me. And American is also there. Modern literature is the focus. Non-British writers, the greatest of them. You don't have to really worry. The greatest of them, like award winners, Nobel laureates, even postcolonial writers, etc. So I think, Ankita, we should really start coaching for online
Yes.
on YouTube. We should start coaching for all these exams that we have done orientation for.
Yes.
Hundreds and thousands of people will be benefited. In the coming days, let us do systematically based on PYQs. We will take PYQs and teach that area thoroughly. I think that'll be really good. What do
Yes.
you think?
Yes. We will do continuous sessions every
Yes.
day on all of these exams and all of these topics.
So those who are preparing for it, please join us and feel free to learn from YouTube with us for free. But more than PYQ, if you want detailed lectures and all, you can join our course. There are courses that also that we have started for all these topics. Right, everyone? So I think this will be an amazing way for you to brush up your knowledge and study. So, Ankita, we have collected all the syllabus and question papers and everything, right?
Yes, we have all the PYQs and everything. So we are already having so many courses in RPSC, JKPSC, and everything. So another course has been added, that is BPSC. So
Yes.
do join us.
I'm so excited because, right after this course, it's not like net. People are getting the job. Right. So, shall we go on to discuss the PPT, Ankita?
Yes, please. Yes.
You can read the question and tell the answer also, and then I will go into the explanation.
Okay.
So, guys, we are going into the first question. This is orientation for Bihar PSC teacher recruitment exam. Maybe over 50,000 people are writing this exam from all the states near Bihar. So, please take this seriously. Ankita, your turn.
Yes. So here is the first question for you all. How many parts are there in the poem, The Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner? Is it 7, 9, 8, or more than one of the above? So we know that it's a very popular poem by Coleridge, and there are 7 parts in this poem.
Very good. So, this poem has 7 parts. You know that The Ancient Mariner is a poem included in the lyrical ballads. The lyrical ballads has the first 4 poems by Coleridge, 5th poem onwards by Wordsworth. And in lyrical ballads, we have an ancient mariner or a sailor. Mariner means sailor. He is stopping 3 wedding guests. They are on the way to a wedding, and he's telling them his own story. How he was on a ship near the pole, the South Pole, and there was no water, no food. There was an albatross bird that came and sat on the ship, and unnecessarily, for no reason, he killed that bird. So the bird was God's messenger, and he had no reason to do it, but he unnecessarily, accidentally did this sinful thing. And then what happens is the albatross hangs on his neck. It becomes like a curse. And then he saw a ship, skeleton ship approaching. On the skeleton ship, Death and life in death were playing dice. Death claimed all the mariners. Life in death claimed our ancient mariner. He is cursed to wander the world and tell everybody about his terrible cursed life. And then a boat approaches. In the boat, there is a hermit and a boy. He tells them the story, and now he's telling everybody this story. There are very important lines in this poem. Water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink, for example. It'll be very important before the exam to look up these poems. You should look up these poems, look at how many stanzas are there, what is the way in which it is described. So what is the opening line? What is the closing line? In exams like this, they check whether you have direct reading, whether you have read the poem, that they always check. So it'll be good if you every day for half an hour at least read the poem. Now, you know that the Ancient Mariner was first published in the Lyrical Ballads. Lyrical Ballads came in 1798. And the form of this is a ballad, of course. The form of this is a ballad. It is Coleridge's longest major poem. Coleridge also has written Kubla Khan. Then he has written Christabel. These are all very important classics of romantic literature of the early 19th century. And Coleridge also wrote Biographia Literaria, where he developed the theory of imagination. He developed the theory of imagination. Now, it is also very interesting to note that Coleridge revised this poem. He added notes to it. He revised this poem because Coleridge considered revision as a very important part of writing poetry. Remember, in the 18th century also, Alexander Pope and others revised their poems to a great extent. They also revised their poems. The collection Sibylline Leaves is a very major collection by Coleridge, where also I think this poem appears. So what is the importance of nature? What is the theme of this poem? What is the importance of nature? What is the importance of understanding God's blessings? You know, if you do something sinful, how can you atone for it? There are very strong biblical and classical elements in this poem. Biblical and religious Christian elements are there in this poem. That is also very important. Do you have something to add to this, Ankita?
Yes, so often you can read about this, how those Christian themes have been implemented, because they often ask statement-based questions from these specific topics. Because when a particular work has a certain theme like religious or war, so you can read up on how these themes have been implemented, because we have seen that in these exams they often ask statement based questions, so you can read up on these things in a bit detail.
Yes, the basic foundation we are giving in this video lecture would be very useful for you. Next question, shall we, Ankita?
Yes. So which of these author text pairs is correctly matched? Samuel Johnson, Dunciad, William Cowper, Macflecknoe, Thomas Paine, The Rivals, more than one of the above, or none is correct here?
Okay, so the answer is, who wrote the Dunciad? It is by Alexander Pope, not Samuel Johnson. Who wrote Macflecknoe? It is by Dryden, not William Cowper. And who wrote The Rivals? It is by Richard Brinsley Sheridan, not Thomas Paine. Okay, so none of these pairs are correctly matched. The Dunciad is a mock heroic poem or mock epic. The Dunciad was published in 1728, and Alexander Pope extensively revised it later. The Dunciad first appeared attacking Louis Theobald. Okay, and when he revised it in 1743, the Dunciad attacked Colley Cibber. The Dunciad is by Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope also wrote pastorals, then essay on criticism, essay on man, the Dunciad, moral essays, epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot. These are very important essays, satires of Alexander Pope. Samuel Johnson also wrote satires. Samuel Johnson's satires are London and Vanity of Human Wishes. Samuel Johnson wrote London and Vanity of Human Wishes. Samuel Johnson was not primarily a poet. Samuel Johnson was primarily a prose writer. He wrote essays for periodicals like The Rambler. He wrote a dictionary. Samuel Johnson wrote Lives of the Poets. Samuel Johnson was also a critic who wrote Preface to Shakespeare. Samuel Johnson's critical essay, Preface to Shakespeare, is important. Now, Macflecknoe is the model for Dunciad. Macflecknoe by Dryden is the model for Dunciad. Dunciad is a mock epic written by Dryden. He wrote it against Thomas Shadwell. And Dryden attacked Shaftesbury, Shadwell in satires like Absalom and Achitophel, The Medal, and Macflecknoe. Absalom and Achitophel, The Medal, and Macflecknoe. These are the satires of Dryden. The Rivals is a play by Richard Brinsley Sheridan. Sheridan wrote The Rivals, then The School for Scandal. His friend Oliver Goldsmith wrote, She Stoops to Conquer. Before that, he wrote The Good-Natured Man. Those who want detailed classes on all this, those who want to study English literature thoroughly, without shortcuts, in such a manner that you will pass all your exams, please join our courses. Ankita, let us add the details of the courses as slides so that they will be able to see it.
Okay.
Okay, we can type it out, and all the, not only BPSC, but other courses also, so that they can understand.
Yes.
And also the phone number and everything.
Yes,
In
I'm
case,
promoting the courses
you don't know
every day.
our phone number, you can call 93878. I am writing on the screen. 93878 39871. Sometimes when you call, they might be engaged in other calls. So please WhatsApp or call again. They will respond to you. Okay, 93878 39871. We teach at Valath very, very thoroughly so that you will pass this exam with rank, and also you will pass many other exams. Okay, joining our course will be worthwhile. But also, if you don't join our course, basic coaching and training you will get from our YouTube channel itself. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, Ankita, next question to you.
Yes. So whose pseudonym is Alpha of the Plough? Is it A.J. Gardiner, Robert Lind, J.B. Priestley, or more than one of the above? Who used this pseudonym, Alpha of the Plough? It was A.G. Gardiner. He used this pseudonym. So
Please continue.
In all of these exams, please make a list of all the pseudonyms of important writers. If you just make a list once, from there you will get all these info-based questions, because there is nothing to understand much or interpret. It is just info-based. So make a list of all the pseudonyms and the writers. This will help you a lot.
And if you do not know how to do it, and if you do not know what are the important things that you should study, please buy our student encyclopedias. It is very inexpensive. You don't have to spend much money. The main encyclopedias are very good, but to start with, student encyclopedias will help you tremendously. Ankita, let us put the pictures and the inside pages also sometimes, and let us help them in the next session onwards. Please join us every day, everyone, because we'll be explaining all the important topics here. A.G. Gardiner is a non-fiction prose writer. He used the pseudonym Alpha of the Plough. In the 19th and 20th centuries, there were many non-fiction writers. Non-fiction or prose began in the 18th century. 18th century is called the age of prose and reason. In the 18th century, there were major prose writers like Addison and Steele. Addison and Steele started the Tatler, the Spectator. There were also prose writers like Daniel Defoe, Jonathan Swift, Dr. Johnson. These are all 18th century prose writers. There were also 19th century prose writers like Charles Lamb, William Hazlitt, Thomas De Quincey. Later in the Victorian period, there were writers like John Ruskin, Thomas Carlyle, Thomas Babington Macaulay. So, as Ankita said, you should have a list of all the major writers and their major works also. We will also be telling you, but remember, you should have that list proper. And everything, if you want in one place, our encyclopedias would be the best. Robert Lind, look at the options. Robert Lind and J.B. Priestley, G.K. Chesterton, they are also important prose writers. Ankita.
Spenser's Shepherd's Calendar was published in which year? 1579, 1578, or 1564? Because chronology is very, very important in any exam. You should memorize the years along with the works you are studying. And Spenser's Shepherd's Calendar was published in 1579.
Now, dear friends, to memorize years, it is not as difficult as you think. When I teach and when we teach at Valat, we always cross-connect so that it becomes very easy to remember. Spenser's Shepherd's Calendar came in 1579. That is the same year when Stephen Gosson wrote School of Abuse. And Stephen Gosson's School of Abuse and Shepherd's Calendar both were dedicated to Philip Sidney. Later, Philip Sidney wrote a reply to Stephen Gosson's School of Abuse. Please remember that Shepherd's Calendar by Spenser is a pastoral poem. Pastoral means a poem about countryside, about rural people. Shepherd's Calendar is a pastoral poem. It is a group of 12 pastoral poems or eclogues written for each month. In pastoral poetry like this, the speakers or characters always appear as shepherds. Shepherds. Okay, Spenser wrote Shepherd's Calendar. That was his first major work. After that, his most important work is Fairy Queen. That was written 11 years later in 1590 in 3 books and in 1596 in 6 books. Fairy Queen is about the reign of Queen Elizabeth. He refers to King Arthur there. Fairy Queen is an allegory as well as an epic. Fairy Queen is an allegory as well as an epic. Now, when we study, you should remember that extremely important is to study major literary terms. The advantage of studying at Vallath is that we will give you very simple material as well as very clear coaching based on all this. I am exceptionally good at teaching in a very simple manner all these things, and my team, who are all majorly my previous students, they are also doing an extremely good job. So you will have no trouble at all. Okay, Shepherd's Calendar by Spenser. Fairy Queen also by Spenser. 1579. That means end of the 16th century. Ankita.
The Lyrical Ballads closes with which poem? Is it Education of Nature, Kubla Khan, Tinta Nabi, or more than one of these poems? We know that Lyrical Ballads was a collection. It was a collection of poems by Wordsworth and Coleridge. And it was a collection of experimental poems by both of these poets. And this collection ends with Tintern Abbey of Wordsworth.
Right, Ankita. The Lyrical Ballads was first published in 1798. 1789 was the French Revolution. 1798 lyrical ballads. Lyrical ballads eventually got a preface. There was a preface added in 1800 and it expanded. It was expanded in 1802. As I told you, the first 4 books of lyrical ballads are by Coleridge, starting with the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The last poem is Tintern Abbey. Tintern Abbey is a long nature poem, a reflective poem by William Wordsworth. In Tintern Abbey, William Wordsworth talks about his visit to the ancient ruins of Tintern Abbey in Scotland. And he's sitting there and looking at the landscape and talking about it. He's also talking about his own development as a poet. When he visits Tintern Abbey, he is with his sister, Dorothy Wordsworth. He is also referring to Dorothy in this poem. Wordsworth was influenced by his sister Dorothy. Wordsworth was also influenced by his friend Coleridge. Okay, Ankita?
Next. Millamant is a character in which of the following plays? Love for Love, The Double Dealer, The Way of the World, or more than one of the above. So all of these plays here in the options are restoration plays. And Millamant is a character in The Way of the World by William Congreve.
The plays Love for Love and Double Dealer are also by William Congreve. William Congreve was a major restoration comedy writer. William Congreve, William Wycherley, then George Etheredge. These were very major restoration comedy writers. Restoration comedy is comedy of manners. Restoration comedy is the genre comedy of manners. In comedy of manners, there are upper class characters, brilliant dialogue, stereotypical characters will be there. Okay, Jeremy Collier, one clergyman, attacked restoration comedy. He particularly attacked Congreve. Okay, the man who wrote The Way of the World, Congreve, was particularly attacked by Jeremy Collier. It is after Jeremy Collier's attack that Congreve wrote The Way of the World, which is a very brilliant, chaste play compared to the earlier plays. Earlier plays were all immoral, but The Way of the World is a very good play. Okay, not immoral. The Way of the World has a very powerful heroine, Millamant, and a hero, Mirabell. Mirabell and all the other characters are having extramarital affairs. They are immoral. Only Millamant is chaste and moral. At the end, Mirabell, the hero, gets Millamant and all her money. It becomes clear that Mirabell, the hero, wants only money. But Millamant turns out to be very powerful. You know what she does? Millamant tells Mirabell, the hero, that I want to have my freedom. So you should sign and give me in writing, my freedom. She bargains for her freedom. This is called the bargaining scene in The Way of the World. The Way of the World was performed in 1700. That is at the beginning of the 18th century. 1700 is the year in which Dryden died also. Dryden and Congreve were friends at that time. Restoration comedy is what Congreve wrote at the end of the 17th century. Okay, and restoration comedy is comedy of manners. Okay, Ankita.
Which of the following works is or are written by Frantz Fanon? The Wretched of the Earth, The Blind Assassin, Cat's Eye, or more than one of the above? So whenever we study about post-colonialism, whenever we study about the relations of the colonizer and the colonized, we read about Frantz Fanon. And he wrote The Wretched of the Earth. And in this work, he examines the psychological impact of colonization on the colonized. The Wretched of the Earth, Black Skin and White Masks. These are very important works by this theorist, and he was also a psychiatrist, Frantz Fanon.
Yes, as Ankita said, Frantz Fanon was a Black post-colonial critic from Martinique, the country called Martinique. And he was one of the earliest post-colonial critics who talked about the psychology of colonization. He talked about how colonization affects psychology of people. And Frantz Fanon wrote two major works, like Ankita said, Black Skin, White Masks, and The Wretched of the Earth. The Wretched of the Earth came in 1961. 1961. The other two options, Blind Assassin and Cat's Eye, are books by Margaret Atwood. Margaret Atwood is a Canadian novelist as well as poet. Margaret Atwood is the author of The Handmaid's Tale, Surfacing, and before that, the first novel that she wrote is The Edible Woman. She has written a lot of dystopian novels recently. Margaret Atwood. Frantz Fanon, did you know, died of cancer? And as he lay in his flat, dying and in pain, he dictated The Wretched of the Earth to somebody. And The Wretched of the Earth was published in the year he died, 1961. In The Wretched of the Earth, there is a controversial element because he is supporting violence in decolonization. When the post-colonial people or the people who were once oppressed by the colonial masters, when they escape from colonization, when they decolonize themselves, Frantz Fanon says it will be violent. So it looked like he's supporting violence. The introduction to The Wretched of the Earth was written by Sartre, Jean-Paul Sartre, who is an existentialist philosopher. Jean-Paul Sartre is an existentialist philosopher. Ankita.
Which one of the following statements is true in regard to the poem Beowulf? Beowulf is a descriptive, tragical poem. Beowulf is an epic poem having a narrative tone. Or Beowulf is an argumentative poem. Or here, what will be correct? More than one of the above, or none of the above, or one of the three options above? It will be that Beowulf is an epic poem having a narrative tone.
Very good. Beowulf is an epic. It is not a tragedy. It is not argumentative. Beowulf is the oldest existing epic in English literature. It is about a Geatish hero from Scandinavia, from the North Pole, near North Pole. Scandinavian countries are there. From there, Beowulf is a Geatish hero. He is supporting the Danish king, Hrothgar, to kill Grendel. He also kills Grendel's mother. And 50 years later, he becomes the king of the Geats. And then he kills a dragon. This is the story of Beowulf. It is a heroic poem. It is an epic or heroic poem. And it shows the greatness of the hero Beowulf and ends with Beowulf's death. Any epic is a narrative poem. And our Beowulf is also a narrative poem. Now, Beowulf is anonymous because we do not know who wrote Beowulf. Beowulf is often prescribed in universities these days. There is the famous Irish poet Seamus Heaney, who translated Beowulf. Do you know J.R.R. Tolkien? J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Lord of the Rings. J.R.R. Tolkien has done extensive study of Beowulf, and he has also written articles on Beowulf. Lectures. He has given lectures on Beowulf. Okay, Ankita.
Who coined the term curtal sonnet? It is also a type of sonnet where you don't have 14 lines. Okay, so who coined it? John Keats, G.M. Hopkins, Edmund Spenser, or more than one of the above? So it is Gerard Manley Hopkins or G.M. Hopkins, who by the end of the 19th century practiced writing of the curtal sonnets.
Excellent. Curtal sonnets are sonnets with not 14 lines, but 10.5 lines. Usually a sonnet has 14 lines, but Hopkins wrote it in 10.5 lines. No, you know, Hopkins came at the end of the 19th century and he had some modernist elements. G.M. Hopkins came at the end of the 19th century. He's a Jesuit priest. and he was homosexual. He suffered because of his homosexuality, and he felt very guilty about it. He wrote many important poems that show his trauma and guilt. They are called the terrible sonnets. His most famous poem, The Wind Over, is prescribed in universities. The Wind Over, or To Christ our Lord. Now, G.M. Hopkins also wrote another famous poem, The Wreck of Deutschland. Hopkins also wrote Pied Beauty. These are all poems that are prescribed in universities. Curtal sonnets are small, shorter sonnets, very cryptic and crisp sonnets. G.M. Hopkins is also associated with inscape, in-stress, and sprung rhythm. These are some technical innovations that Hopkins brought about in poetry. Ankita?
Who was Il Miglior Fabbro for T.S. Eliot? Was it Samuel Beckett, W.B. Yeats, Ezra Pound, or more than one of the above? Here, Ezra Pound was his Il Miglior Fabbro because he had edited his massive masterpiece, The Westland. And that's why he had called him Il Miglior Fabbro, or the better craftsman.
Yeah. T.S. Eliot was a modernist poet, and Ezra Pound was another modernist poet, a little older than T.S. Eliot, 3 years older. And Ezra Pound was both, they were both Americans who had traveled to England and lived in England for some time. And Ezra Pound edited The Wasteland, as you know. The Wasteland was first published in the Criterion in 1922. Now, Il Miglior Fabbro means the better craftsman, as Ankita was saying. That means Ezra Pound is the better craftsman than T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot had written around 1,000 lines, and Ezra Pound had reduced it to 434 lines. And The Wasteland is in 5 sections. The Wasteland is a poem drawing on contemporary life and mythology, and which has a lot of intertextual connections with many authors and works drawn from Dante and Homer and, everywhere. Not Homer, Dante onwards. And it has 5 sections. Which are they? The Burial of the Dead, A Game of Chess, The Fire Sermon, Death by Water, and What the Thunder Said. The protagonist of The Wasteland is said to be Tiresias, the Greek mythological prophet Tiresias. The Wasteland towards the end refers to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and quotes from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad the word da, which the thunder says in the Upanishad. Da means datta, dayatvam, damyata. And it also quotes Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The Wasteland quotes the line Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. In the options here, Samuel Beckett is an absurd dramatist, the author of Waiting for Godot, Endgame, and Happy Days. W.B. Yeats is an Irish poet and playwright who was also an early modernist. He was also a modernist. W.B. Yeats is the author of poems like Second Coming, Easter 1916, Among School Children, Byzantium and Sailing to Byzantium, Circus Animals, Desertion, etc. Ezra Pound himself is a poet. He wrote cantos, ripostas, Hugh Selwyn, Moberly, etc. And he founded the Imagist movement. Ezra Pound founded the Imagist movement. Okay, Ankita. Oh, that's all. So we have come to the end of the discussion of some of the PYQs and important questions that you will need to know for Bihar PSC exam. Teacher recruitment exam is coming up. Thousands and 10,000s of people are writing this exam. And you know what? When you study at Vallath, you will have like 99% chance to pass. And also, all our students come out with flying colors, with ranks. So if you study at Vallath, you're going to pass. If you don't study at Vallath also, you will pass. But it's much easier if you study here because of our thorough methods, very easy materials, and continuous support of all our students. We have a method of teaching, and I am able to give you very careful and very scholarly support. So think about it. Contact us if you want. You can just Google Vallat. And thank you very much. Even if you don't Google, you should follow us on YouTube and listen to all the free videos, because we are going to come up with more useful videos on all the major exams. Aren't we, Ankita?
Yes, absolutely. Now we are doing live every day for CUET, PG, and GATE. And one by one, we will bring videos for all the exams.
I will also join you, Ankita. I
Yes.
want to be there for CUET, PG, and GATE people, and also for all the other exams, because our aim is learning for life and helping you with your careers. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Bye.
From Ankita and me.